Ben's asking, do you think Scott Frost has changed his overall philosophy after changing his whole offensive staff?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. He has. We've talked about it here before on the show. This is the first time that he's not run a show. And that was a big thing for him to give up. Seriously. Because if you look at him coming up, at Oregon, he's the offensive coordinator. He called the plays, for Chip Kelly, and then he moved to UCF, and then he was running the show there. Then he come to Nebraska, and he's running the show until he hired Mark Whipple, a guy that actually a renowned guy in the industry, a guy that with a track record, a resume miles long in college football and the NFL, that there was finally a guy. I mean, because if you look at the other two offensive coordinators he's brought in here before Mark Whipple, they were basically yes men for Scott Frost. Their title was offensive coordinator, but Coach Frost was calling the plays and running personnel in and out. And now he finally trusts somebody, which is a mentor to him. A guy that's forgot more football than he'll ever know. And so, yeah, he feels good. He feels good about that now. And so now basically he can be a CEO instead of worrying about, every play, every offensive snap on top of every defensive snap that's going on in practice and the games. So, and you can tell that the load's been lifted a little bit off of his shoulders. But, I mean, obviously the pressure is still there to win games. But I think he's put himself, by his hires that he's made, he's put himself in a very, very good spot to succeed moving forward here.
Good. William looking at the division and wanting to know which team has improved the most year over year. So here are my thoughts. I'm looking at the recruiting rankings. Well, the team that's improved the most is Nebraska. That's the team that's improved the most because they brought in the most experienced, proven talent, starting with Casey Thompson and Trey Palmer and others. Let's look at the recruiting rankings. So if you're looking at the composite in the division, Purdue brought in the 37th ranked class. Nebraska's at 41, Wisconsin at 44. I probably missed Iowa. Northwestern and Minnesota are just in the top 50. Iowa must be, yeah, they're at 30. They had the best class. So Iowa had the best class, but they also brought in the least transfers. They lost the least transfers. They brought in the least transfers. They brought in one. So from a transfer portal situation, Nebraska is the most improved. Purdue picked up Iowa, 2 offensive players from Iowa, 2 wide receivers, Tyrone Tracy and Charlie Jones. Minnesota lost one of its best running backs, and Marquise Irving went to Oregon. I think Nebraska is the most improved team in the division.
Well, I didn't. You're on a nice roll there. I didn't want to cut you off, but I think his question means actually who's improved each year the most as a team.
Oh, in the past?
It says most year over year.
I was thinking who
doesn't even say recruiting on there.
Well, yeah, that would be. I thought he was asking which team's going to be the most improved this year over last year.
No, which team in our division improved the most year over year?
Yeah.
I would say Nebraska is on the bottom of that list.
Well, yeah.
Questions.
I don't look at that question like that.
Okay, well.
If you're going to look at it as who's improved the most in the past, all you have to do is look at their records.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota is the one who's improved, from where they were to where they are now as a team, as a program.
Minnesota's improved the most. Northwestern's been on the biggest roller coaster. Uh,
Yeah.
and Nebraska's gone backwards the most. But if we're looking forward, I think Nebraska's got has improved its roster the most in 1 year.
I think they've poised themselves to do good things finally, for a change, obviously. So we just got to see what it all looks like when they actually fly over to Dublin and take on the Wildcats.
Stephen Young, after Scott Frost, would prefer a DC as head coach. I don't know where we're headed with that one.
I get that. I mean, my favorite coach of all time is Mike Ditka. And he ended up being a defensive guy, but he played tight end when he was a player. But
yeah.
I think if you're, especially in college football, if you got yourself a good DC like Scott Frost has, I think it's better off. I mean, let a defensive guy run the defense. Bo Pelini was considered one of the best defensive coordinators out there. Not so much as a head coach as it's turned out. So I don't know. I mean, there's different sides of that argument. But I think it's just the best head coach is a guy that knows how to surround himself with the best guys out there, the smartest guys. And I think Eric Shenander is one of the best defensive coordinators that you'll find in college football. And he'll be a head coach one of these days. I mean, he turns down a lot of offers as it is, but he makes a lot of money too as a defensive coordinator, and he's a loyal guy. And I think that's the biggest key. I mean, especially if you're an offensive guy, you're known as an offensive guy. Yeah, get the best defensive coordinator you could. Like I said, Mike Ditka, he got Buddy Ryan. You see how that worked out. So yeah, that's the best way to go if you're asking me. And now vice versa. If you're a defensive guy like a Bo Pelini, man, you should go out there and find one of those top guys out there, to be your offensive coordinator. And I'm not trying to bash anybody that had been here in the past, like Tim Beck and stuff. Those guys were all good in their own ways, but yeah, you just got to find the right chemistry. Bottom line, and to be a head coach, you got to be a CEO these days.